What's up, Knuckleheads? It's Josh, and we have another tier list for patch 13.3. That's right, Teamfight Tactics has gotten some big updates in this latest patch. So let's see what the experts and data sites think about all those changes and how they have affected the TFT meta. Starting right at the top in the S tier, no surprise that our permanent residents like Aphelios, Viego, Talia, and Samira are all up there, but we also have Kaisa, who is still an S tier comp, along with Zoe, who is quickly becoming one of the best AP comps in Teamfight Tactics Set 8. Even though there were a lot of changes to patch 13.3 that affect early game gold distribution and giving players more choices in their items late game, this still does appear to be a very late game favored meta right now. There are a few reroll comps in the S and A tiers like Zoe, Kaisa, and Lux, but for the most part it's all 4 and 5 cost carries that you're going to be wanting to go for in this patch. There were also a bunch of changes to hero augments and items in patch 13.4. There's a lot of them, so I can't really get into any of them in detail as to how they're affecting the meta at this point, but it does seem to be relatively stable in terms of where things fit in the hierarchy. No real big changes or outliers compared to 13.3. And that's really kind of borne out by this tier list when we look at it compared to patch 13.3. There's really only a couple of notable comps that made moves either positively or negatively. On the plus side, like I mentioned, Spellslinger Lux is now an S tier comp. It's moved up from A tier last patch. And just in general, I'm noticing a lot of very strong AP comps at the very top of the tier list, like Talia, Zoe, Lux, and even you could count Misfortune and Zaya in there. And that's in spite of the fact that Riot basically took a baseball bat to Hextech Gunblade kneecaps in 13.4. On the other side though, Mecha Prime Set had a big dip out of S tier down into A tier. It's still good, but not nearly as strong as it was last patch. In general, I feel like all the Mecha Prime comps have kind of dipped a bit in popularity, so it's not quite the same strong frontline that it has been. But then the two big traits that did get buffed this patch in 13.4 were Gadgeting and Admin. Now, according to all the data sites and experts, it doesn't really seem like that moved the needle. We still have a couple of admin comps in Soraka and LeBlanc in the B tier, and there is actually a variation of the Lux comp that is Gadgeting focused, which is what I'm actually playing in the background of this video. So maybe you could make the argument that Gadgeting has improved, but I also think that Spellslinger Lux has just been a very solid, like 6 vertical comp that doesn't always need the Gadgeting trait. But given the fact that Spellslinger Lux has shot up the TFT tier list, I figure it's time to go into depth about this very strong hyperroll comp in Set 8. Now, as I mentioned, there are two variations of this comp. One is more Star Guardian heavy, the other is Gadgeting based. Both of them use roughly the same hero augments, but there are a few variations, obviously. Ideally, you would want to get Illuminating Singularity on Lux if you're going to hyperroll her, because that gives her a damage amp on her second cast. Other good options would be either of Annie's augments or Lulu's augment, Foster Growth, if you're going for the Gadgeting variation. If you do get a later hero augment shop, then you actually want to roll for Chrono Break from Echo. This is going to be incredibly useful because it stuns all enemies for 2 seconds at 10 seconds into combat, which is going to give you a good chance to potentially turn the fights around and get more damage out of your Lux or whoever your main carry is. As far as general augments go, the usual suspects for any AP comp are going to be good here. Jeweled Lotus, Axiom Arc would be your top priorities, Luden's Echo, and End of Preparation if you're doubling down on the Lux reroll for this comp. And remember, if you do miss on Lux when you're hyper rolling, that's not a big deal. You can always transition to a Talia Star Guardian comp, which I actually have a 3-minute guide for right here.